The shuttle pierced the atmosphere of Roken with a low, guttural hum, its hull trembling against the thick violet clouds as it descended. Inside, Staff Sergeant Alara Mendez sat rigid and silent, her dark eyes fixed on a display screen that showed the sprawling Imperial outpost below. To her left, 2 Trident soldiers, 8-foot-tall reptilian brutes, snorted derisively, speaking in low tones that didn't quite mask their amusement. "So this is Earth's best?" "They sent a child in soft-skin armor," one muttered, glancing sideways. "Where's the rest of her unit? Still learning to hold a rifle?" Alara didn't flinch. She had learned early that silence was sharper than retort. Words couldn't win over beings who dismissed her before she stepped off the ramp. Instead, she let their contempt settle around her like smoke, annoying but not suffocating. She had come to Roken for a reason, and it had nothing to do with earning their approval. When the shuttle doors hissed open, a rush of metallic air hit her face. The outpost was a jagged cluster of alloy towers and grav platforms, a testament to Imperial pragmatism over elegance. Alien soldiers swarmed the grounds in disciplined patterns, some in massive power exosuits, others flanked by drone escorts. Amid them, Ilara's lean frame seemed almost ghost-like, unarmored, unaugmented, unimpressed. Lieutenant Coran of the Avarak Corps awaited her, his rigid, wing-sheathed form bristling with irritation. His species were hawk-faced, all gold eyes and narrow pride. "You are Earth Sniper?" he asked flatly, extending neither greeting nor hand. "Yes, sir," Ilara replied, her voice calm but resolute. "I was told Earth sent their best." "I suppose we will judge that in time," Coran said, turning on his heel. "Follow. Your presence has logistical implications." As they walked through the base, Ilara noticed the glances, the barely stifled laughter. One Trident pointed at her rifle case, compact and low-tech by Imperial standards, and smirked. Others whispered in standard tongue, ensuring she would hear. The word primitive came up more than once. They reached the training range, a high-walled enclosure fitted with autonomous targets and variable gravity zones. Dozens of soldiers were already present, some recalibrating plasma rifles that glowed like miniature suns, others discussing neural targeting syncs. Coran raised his voice. "Attention. Earth's representative, Staff Sergeant Mendez, will demonstrate her marksmanship." A low murmur rippled through the group. A few soldiers stepped aside, barely hiding their amusement. "You will fire at those 5 drone targets," Coran instructed, pointing to distant objects hovering in irregular motion. "Standard settings." Ilara nodded and knelt. She unclasped her case, revealing an unassuming rifle, no plasma, no AI assistance. The alloy was matte black, earth-forged and battle-worn. Some laughed openly now. "Does it require combustion?" Someone joked. Ilara loaded the magazine without a word. She adjusted the scope manually, calibrated by instinct and decades of practice. Then she breathed in, letting the noise fade into the background. On her exhale, she fired. The first shot clipped a moving drone at the edge of its arc. The second sliced through a gravity-warped path to strike dead center. 3 more shots followed, each more improbable than the last. Perfect hits against impossible motion. Silence reigned. The last target fell in a puff of smoke, its trajectory cut mid-curve. Ilara stood, reloading with practiced ease. She didn't look around. She didn't need to. Coran's jaw clenched. "Acceptable," he said tightly. "Your results will be logged." The crowd began to disperse, but the murmurs were no longer mocking. They were uncertain, unsettled. Later, in the barracks, Ilara found her assigned bunk tucked into a shadowed corner of the alien-designed dormitory. Her cot was narrower than standard, the ceiling too high, the air slightly too thin. She sat on the edge and removed her boots, her thoughts drifting, not to the range, but to the freezing cliffs of Patagonia, where she'd once lain for 23 hours in a blizzard waiting for a warlord's convoy. There had been no drones, no spotters, just patience, breath, and trust in her eye. The door slid open behind her. One of the Trident, Zurich, she recalled, stood in the threshold. "You hit that last drone on a curve no Avarak could track," he said, less amused now. "How?" Ilara didn't smile. "I didn't track it. I listened to the wind, watched the light bend off the casing. Guessed where it would think it was safe. Zurich grunted. We rely on predictive systems. I rely on my gut. He watched her for a beat, then nodded slowly. Still looks like a toy. It only needs to look like a bullet to the one it hits. After he left, Ilera lay back and stared at the ceiling. The outpost lights dimmed to simulate night, casting the room in cool blue. Her limbs were heavy, but her mind was sharp, measuring angles even in rest. They would never say out loud, not yet, but the seed of doubt had been planted. The Galactic Empire's finest had seen a glimpse of what a human sniper could do without machines, without augmentation. Just a rifle, just an eye, just will. They could laugh again tomorrow. She wouldn't mind. They wouldn't laugh forever. A holographic map flickered to life in the command tent, casting pale green light over the gathered soldiers. Mountains, ravines, and thermal spikes lit up with coded markers. Ilera stood among the Imperial unit, her arms crossed as the briefing officer gestured toward a red zone pulsing like a wound on the terrain. Vector 7's wastelands, the officer began. Magnetic instability renders aerial drones useless. Orbital scans are blind. We've confirmed the Zarn insurgents are dug in beneath this ridge, fortified, shielded, and invisible to standard optics. The Empire has lost 3 units attempting extraction or elimination. A tried-Annie sergeant clicked his tusks. Why not orbital bombardment? Too many civilian shelters buried in the crust, the officer replied. The mission is precision engagement. Eliminate the rebel commander, retrieve intel. Minimal exposure. Lieutenant Coron's golden gaze swept across the assembled squad. You all know why we were chosen. We're adaptable, high discipline, and capable of operating without tech support. He didn't look at Ilera when he said it, but the pause was enough. She noticed. The team began reviewing formation assignments and loadouts. Ilera approached her locker and opened it without ceremony. Her rifle sat inside, alongside a compact Earth design field kit. Manual scopes, friction boots, analog navigation gear. No drones. No AI. No augmentation. Coron passed behind her. Primitive weapons won't help you in the wastelands. Neither will dead tech, she replied, not turning. He didn't respond. The tent buzzed with tension as the soldiers prepped for deployment. They launched before dawn, 6 soldiers in a low-profile transport that skimmed just under the ion ceiling. The skies above them churned with static interference, crackling against the hull. The drop point was a cratered ridge on the edge of enemy territory, surrounded by collapsed stone arches and sulfuric vents. The air was dry, heavy with the scent of mineral decay. As boots hit dirt, the squad spread out, weapons drawn. Zurich took point, his massive frame moving with unexpected agility. 2 Avrak sharpshooters took the flanks. Ilera kept the rear, her steps quiet, deliberate. She was scanning the ridge when the first shot cracked the silence. One of the Avrak collapsed in a burst of arterial spray. No warning, no sound of approach. Sniper, Coron shouted, diving for cover. The squad scattered behind rocks and broken debris. Another shot rang out, clean, controlled. The second Avrak dropped with a gurgling choke. Ilera ducked behind a shattered beam and adjusted her scope, peering into the shifting terrain. There, a heat shimmer too deliberate to be wind. She fired. Dust kicked up where her bullet struck metal. The opposing sniper vanished. They're embedded deep, she said over comms. Smart. Heat baffles and real cover. Not like your simulations. Zurich snarled. How do you see that with no visor? I see better without interference. The squad moved in tighter formation now, slower, more cautious. As they advanced to the jagged valley, they encountered rigged traps, trip sensors disguised as rock formations, shifting ground plates designed to collapse under armored weight. Twice, Ilera caught the signs just in time, pulling soldiers back from the brink. Coron grew more agitated with each narrow escape. Your instincts don't override protocol, Earthling. They're not instincts, Ilera snapped. They're experience. They reached a narrow canyon. The walls sloped like a funnel. Ilera stopped. We're being herded. Koran ignored her and signaled the advance. She hesitated, then followed. The ambush was textbook. Plasma fire from above, slugs from hidden holes in the rock. Chaos erupted. One Tridani went down screaming, molten shrapnel embedded in his torso. Koran's comms flared with orders that made no tactical sense, barking back and forth amid growing static. Ilera dragged Zurich behind a broken slope and returned fire, pinpointing the muzzle flashes from her scope. Calm, methodical. 2 targets dropped before their attackers began to retreat. When the dust cleared, only 4 of them were left. Koran stood slowly, his feathers caked in ash, his visor cracked. We've lost our flanks. Comms are compromised. We go to fallback position, Beta. No time, Ilera said. They've boxed us in. Zurich grunted in agreement. We're surrounded. And that ridge, he pointed with blackened claw, that's where they're broadcasting from. Koran eyed the slope, its top hidden behind a distortion field. Too far. No visual. And we can't approach without being spotted. You don't have to, Ilera said, kneeling. She unpacked her rifle, checked the scope. I can take the shot. The other 2 stared at her. You can't even see the target, Koran barked. I don't need to see him. I know where he has to be to keep line of sight. Wind steady, about 6 knots southwest. Elevation difference, maybe 700 feet. Thin air. Bullet will arc right, drop just a little faster than her standard. You're guessing. I'm calculating, she said, adjusting the sight. You don't trust me. Fine. But if I don't take that shot, we're not leaving this canyon. Zurich looked between them, then nodded once. Let her try. Koran said nothing, but he didn't stop her. Ilera lay prone, dug her elbows into the dust. Her breath slowed. Time dilated. The sound of the canyon faded to a low thrum in the back of her skull. She felt the wind ripple across her cheek, tasted iron in the air. 1 shot, 1 chance. She squeezed the trigger. The bullet cut through the air, silent and unseen. A half-second later, the distortion shimmered and collapsed. A Zarn body fell forward from the ridge, limp. His signal transmitter tumbled down the slope. Zurich exhaled. Target neutralized. Koran stared at her rifle, as if seeing it for the first time. Ilera stood, dusted off her gear, and began walking. Come on. Their fallback route will be collapsing. We have 15 minutes before they seal the tunnels. None of them spoke as they followed. Behind them, the wind picked up, scattering the dust over empty shell casings. The ridge overlooked the basin like a crumbling crown, jagged and half-shrouded in heat distortion. Ilera dropped to one knee, unpacking her rifle with the care of a surgeon laying out tools. Her gloves moved with precise efficiency. Check bolt, clean chamber, adjust scope. The others stood behind her, the silence between them stretched taut by disbelief. There's no line of sight, Koran said, gesturing toward the horizon. You can't even see him. Ilera didn't look up. I can see enough. Below, the Zarn compound pulsed faintly beneath the shimmer of their deflection field. It was nearly invisible, designed to fool both scanners and the naked eye, but Ilera saw the outlines, the pattern in the shimmer, the faint stutter where the field clipped the terrain unevenly. A mistake born of arrogance. She marked it in her mind. Zurich crouched beside her, eyes scanning the valley. Even if you make the shot, we can't confirm the kill until we reach the site. You'll know, she replied, voice low. He'll stop moving the pieces. She steadied her breathing, letting the wind flow past her face. The planet's air was thinner than Earth's, colder too, and it tugged gently at her cheek like an unseen tide. She adjusted for it. Subtle correction left. Slight elevation shift. Koran paced behind her, armor plate scraping with every step. You're gambling lives on a single bullet. Ilera pressed her cheek to the stock, aligning the scope with that stuttering shimmer. I don't gamble. I decide. The ridge fell silent. Even the wind held its breath. In her mind, she wasn't on Vecker 7. She was 16 again, lying in a bombed-out church bell tower in Caracas, watching a hostage-taker shift between cracked stained glass. Her hands had shaken then. They didn't now. Now she was forged iron, every nerve tuned to a singular purpose. She exhaled. The world narrowed. Through the distortion, a shadow moved, slight, unintentional. A brief reveal behind the cloak. The glint of metal, a flash of pale skin, and the unmistakable pause of someone giving orders. She had him. She squeezed the trigger. The shot rang out like a whisper lost of wind. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shimmer on the ridge fractured, collapsed, and dissolved like morning frost. A figure toppled from the platform behind it, arms limp, body crumpling in unnatural silence. The command node burst into sparks. Coran's mouth opened, then closed. His voice failed him. Ilara stood slowly, brushing dust from her knees. Target down. You can confirm it yourself or start moving before reinforcements flood the gap. Zurich let out a sharp, bark-like laugh. You just broke the Zarenchan command with one shot. They did it to themselves, she said, slinging her rifle. They assumed I couldn't. They moved quickly, cutting across the slope while the enemy forces scrambled in disarray. Without leadership, the Zarn assault scattered like panicked insects. A few engaged them briefly, disorganized, confused, but the squad moved through them with precision. Ilara called flanks, signaled shifts in cover, predicted ambush points before the others even sensed danger. Coran, to his credit, stopped arguing. He followed her lead. They reached the collapsed communications tower, where the rebel commander had fallen. The body lay in the dust, glassy-eyed, a deep crimson wound with a round had pierced the skull through reinforced plating. Zurich kicked the ruined transmitter aside. Confirmed, he said. You didn't just kill their leader. You silenced every command relay in this quadrant. Coran knelt beside the corpse, inspecting the entry wound. I thought it was impossible. That shot, it defied known targeting models. No, Ilara said. It defied yours. He stood, staring at her now with something unreadable in his expression. Not respect, not quite, not yet, but the first, hesitant step toward it. The evac beacon was set, and the extraction shuttle arrived in minutes, touching down with a hydraulic hiss. The squad boarded in silence. They were different now, thinner, dirtier, fewer, but not broken. As the shuttle rose above the canyon, Ilara looked back one last time. The wind rippled through the basin, swirling dust around the fallen enemy's stronghold. The landscape looked calm now, quiet, like the pause between thunderclaps. She sat near the back of the cabin, weapon across her knees, eyes half closed. Zurich took the seat beside her, letting his massive shoulders rest against the bulkhead. You knew you could make that shot, he said quietly. I had to, she replied. Coran remained at the front, still silent, still processing. The weight of what he'd witnessed hadn't yet settled. They touched down at the outpost to an unexpected sight. Soldiers gathered on the tarmac, not in formation but waiting, watching. Word had traveled faster than the shuttle. The impossible shot, the rebel fall, the human sniper who didn't miss. As Ilara stepped off, the crowd parted. No cheers, just the stunned silence of recalibration, the moment when belief shifts. She didn't stop, didn't smile, just walked past him with her rifle slung low and her eyes ahead, already considering the next mission, the next ridge, the next target who thought distance was safety. Behind her, Coran finally spoke. I owe you an apology. She paused but didn't turn. Keep it. Just get used to seeing clearly without a machine telling you how. Then she kept walking, and this time no one laughed. The storm began 2 days later, not of wind or sand, but of orders and silence. Imperial Command issued commendations with the clinical precision of a machine trying to understand pride. No fanfare, no medal ceremonies. Just a single datapad slid across Ilara's table with her name etched in tight, unfeeling script, tactical excellence. Tier 1 target elimination. Recommendation for operational integration. She read it once, expression unreadable, then shut it off. Around her, the outpost had changed, not in walls or wiring, but in weight. Where once there had been sneers, now there were measured glances. Where there had been mockery, now there was restraint. Soldiers gave her space in the firing range. She was no longer curiosity from Earth. The throwback, The analog relic. Now she was a ghost with a trigger finger, and even ghosts earned a wide berth. Zurich remained unchanged. The massive Valkyrie still sat across from her during meals, still passed her ammunition on the range without comment. If anything, he was quieter now, more watchful, not out of suspicion, but reverence. "You shifted the air," he said one evening over rations, gesturing to far tables where murmurs rose and fell. "They used to laugh at humans. Now they speak of you like prophecy." Ilara chewed in silence. "Do you like it?" he asked. "I didn't come here to be liked." "Respect, then." She looked at him, eyes calm. "I came to do what needed to be done, what they couldn't." It was days later when the new orders arrived. Another mission, deeper into the fractured outer veil. A rebel remnant had seized a collapsed terraformer station, using its substructures as cover for weapons caches and communication jammers. No drones could map it. No scans could reach its core. Imperial forces had tried twice. Neither unit returned. This time, Ilara's name topped the assignment list. Lead sniper. Field command. Conditional recon authority. She read the words slowly, knowing what they meant. Not just validation. Not just trust. Recognition. Koran met her in the armory before departure. His bearing was tight as always, but something in his eyes had shifted. Less pride, more precision. "You'll take point on this one," he said, holding out the mission slate. "Chain of command runs through your calls unless overridden by high directive." She raised an eyebrow. "So now I'm doctrine?" "Now you're necessary," he replied. "They've started teaching your last shot in war college. That's more than doctrine. That's correction." She nodded once. "Let's see if they're ready to be corrected again." The shuttle dropped into the terraform wreckage just after dusk. The station had once been a marvel, glass domes the size of cities, heat regulators the height of cathedrals. Now it lay in pieces, a giant's corpse, rusting under a copper sky. Panels jutted from broken towers like bone. Wind screamed through cracked corridors. Every corner of the terrain promised an ambush. Ilara descended first. No tech in hand, no visor, just a rifle. "They're watching," she said, eyes on windows high above. "They'll strike when we get too close." Koran frowned. "We take the roof?" "We force them off it, trap them between our fire and the failing ground. They think we'll come like the last team, blind and loud." Zurich stepped beside her. "And we're neither." They moved like a shadow across the ruin. Ilara mapped vectors in her head, aligning squad members not by formation but by instinct. Places where echoes would carry differently, where footfalls would sound unnatural. Every detail mattered. Her mind worked in variables. Every breath a calculation. The enemy revealed themselves slowly, tactical, precise. Rebels in the outer veil didn't play games. They were trained, brutal, intelligent. Their first attack came from above, short bursts of plasma fire, tight and accurate. The squad dug behind cover, returned fire lighting the wreck in chaotic flashes. But Ilara didn't fire back. She watched. 2 snipers. High arcs. Triangulation pattern. They want to force a fallback. She pointed. "Send suppressive fire here. Draw them toward the Arch Zurich. Flank around the turbine ruins. Koran, hold until the signal." There was no hesitation. Orders were followed. Fire sprayed. Shadows moved. Then crack. 1 sniper dropped. Another moved. 2 slow. Crack. Silence. When the dust cleared, 5 rebels lay dead. The rest were retreating, trying to regroup. They couldn't. Ilara had already guessed their fallback, an underground corridor choked with steam and metal. She waited at the mouth, picked them off one by one. Clean, cold. By sunrise, the station was silent. In the wreckage, Ilara found the rebel comms node. Manual, analog. A map had been carved into the metal wall beside it. Targets, convoys, civilian centers. They'd been planning a series of strikes across the fringe. She took a picture with her scope lens. Back at the outpost, command debriefed them briefly, then ended transmission. As always, recognition came without applause. Koran met her outside the hangar, expression neutral. They've submitted a request to assign you permanently to the Cross-Species Tactical Corps. They want to build units around your methodology. She didn't respond. They're calling it the Mendez Protocol. Still nothing. Do you have anything to say about that? She looked past him, toward the endless desert stretching out beyond the perimeter. They're just catching up. Zurich approached, offering her a datapad. From Earth, he said. She hesitated before opening it. A single message, plain and unadorned. They laughed at her. Now they call her doctrine. She stared at the words, then turned off the screen. I didn't do this to become a doctrine. No, Zurich said, nodding. You did it to survive. The doctrine followed you. They stood together, watching the horizon. Somewhere out there, another war was waiting. Another place where machines couldn't see what she could. Another place where arrogance would fall to simplicity and patience. Ilera adjusted her rifle strap and started walking. The galaxy wasn't done doubting her. Good. Let them try again.